In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to stay fit and find time to work out as a parent. Vox.com gives us advice on how to fight without ruining a relationship. And finally, 2 in 3 millennials have credit card debt. How can we fix the problem, or is this even something that we could possibly fix? On this week's version of the Dear Young Men podcast. You know, there is so much advice out there trying to help people, but I think of myself as a special person, which is why I have this podcast that nobody asked me to start. Over the length of this podcast, I intend to talk about things like fatherhood, finances, fitness, and since I couldn't think of anything else interesting that starts with an F, I've also included for creating. It's like pterodactyl, but with an F in front of the C instead of a C, and minimalism, which we won't talk much about because the name sort of implies that. Another reason is that I actually don't talk enough in my daily life. When asking my wife just how she would describe our conversation, she said, and this is a very real quote that she said to me, she said, "You talk 80% of the time," which means there's another 20% of untapped potential for me to be talking. Next, when starting this podcast, I was asked by the podcasting companies which category I would consider this to be a part of. And since I'm a humble and noble person, I looked up industries that are extremely profitable. And one of them that popped up was the self-development niche, because that is poised to grow from $44 billion in 2023 all the way up to a staggering $71 billion over the next 7 years. And I thought, I just have to get in on that. So join me as this 6'3" specimen blabbers uncontrollably into a microphone for 45 or so minutes each week, or at least until I stand up and you realize I'm only 5'10" and all my credibility is blown. All right, so if you made it this far in the podcast, I'm expecting you to like, comment, subscribe, rate, share, and give this to every single person on the planet that you know, because remember, there's $27 billion of unclaimed, untapped potential out there that I need to get. So if I could just get like 10% of that, $2.7 billion, I would be eternally grateful. Okay, so let's dive into the first topic today, and why is this podcast titled Dear Young Men? And I wanted to dive into that because this is actually something that I have been thinking about and been talking about with my wife for a long time. This is something that I feel like I wish I had years and years and years ago. That's what I think this podcast is going to be. I want to hopefully give some advice. I'm 29 years old. I'm a younger guy, but I had kids. I have 2 kids already. And I think I've figured a lot of stuff out through a lot of trial and error. And a lot of the stuff that I figured out, I had to trial and error, and I wish I could go back in time and tell myself the things that I know now, because I wish I knew these things back then. Because if I knew these things back then, I would be doing a lot better today than I am. Not that I'm not doing well. I think I am doing pretty well, but I also think that I have a lot of improvement to make, and I had a lot of improvements I could have changed, and I didn't change until a lot later on in my life. So that's a big reason. I also dislike the branding of it because I am a subject matter expert on a man. I have been one my entire life. And so the next question obviously is like, could you watch this and listen to this if you're a woman? Well, I'm a married man. And so only my wife is allowed to listen to this, because I would hate for her to feel jealous at all, ever, because if she feels jealous, then that's on me, and I don't want her to feel like that. But seriously, I am a subject matter expert on men and the things that men go through, especially young men, and I don't know a lot about women. If I knew a lot about women, I'd be lying. So, and everything I know about women, I asked my wife, so she should just have her own podcast, I would say. So, you are more than welcome to watch this and listen to this if you're a woman. Obviously, I don't really care if you do or not. But this is the Dear Young Men podcast, so that's obviously who it's geared towards, is young men. I'm a younger guy myself. I'm talking to, 21, 20, 22-year-old version of myself that needed this advice, needed to hear this advice, because I think that there's a lot of men like that. There were more than just me back then. So hopefully I'll be able to help some people. And obviously, like I said, I'll say this every single time I bring this up, $27 billion untapped earning potential for me specifically. So let's try to capture that 80-90% of that. Anyways, and obviously I said this in the opening monologue, we are going to be talking about fatherhood, which I'm not an expert on being a perfect father, but I'm an expert on being a father because I am a father of 2. Finances, I think I know finances pretty well. I have developed some systems in my life that have helped me get to a point where I haven't moved past money yet. I'm getting to that point, but I think I'm on a very good trajectory. Fitness, I if you watch my main channel, the Scott Schroeder channel, then you know that I've done a lot of things with regards to fitness, and I want to talk a lot about fitness because I think it's a very important part of being a father and just being, especially a man in general. I know that fitness and being in shape affects me a lot differently than it affects my wife. Creating, obviously, I make a lot of things. I make a lot of videos. I'm not much of an artist in any other regard, but I think I'm very good at making videos. I want to talk about that. And minimalism, because I would consider myself a minimalist. And yes, I'm using paper because I thought it would be tacky to look at the screen. This is all literally right up here, though, on the screen anyways. So that's pretty much everything we'll talk about on this podcast. So hopefully that interests you. We'll obviously talk about some other stuff sometimes as well, but those are going to be the main sort of pillars of this because those are the things that I'm basically the best at. Other than golf, I'm really good at golf. I probably won't talk much about golf because I don't think that really relates to any of those other things. So the first topic is going to be how to stay fit and when to find time to work out as a parent, especially a new parent. And this one, to me, I've struggled with a lot. My weight has fluctuated quite a bit. I think I've gotten to a pretty good rhythm in the last year and a half, ever since my newest daughter was born 6 months ago. I have actually been I've gone to the gym or worked out almost every single day. So I wanted to just talk about sort of what I do and how I do that. The first one that worked for me until it didn't work for me was wake up earlier. This is such an obvious tip. I tried this for a while and I was waking up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I was waking up very early, but I just wasn't getting any sleep. I was getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, which you can do for a little bit, but at a certain period, after a certain point, that's just not enough sleep. And you have to get more than 5 hours of sleep every single night. So what's happened is I stay up a little bit late editing a video, and then one of my daughters wakes up crying or something, whatever it may be, and I get 4 hours of sleep in a night if I get up at 6 a.m. So I just would sleep in. Like I would just sleep more. So that is one way to do it. That's like the most obvious. That's the first thing that people think. I don't actually think that that's the most effective. I think if you're already somebody who wakes up early, then adding that into your morning routine could be effective. But if you're somebody like myself, who I work from home, I get on at 8:30. I get up at like 8:15, 8:20, 8:25. Like I'll get up late sometimes because it's just like I'm tired and I go to bed really late. So that's the first one, is to wake up earlier. The next one is just communicate with your wife and your spouse that, hey, this is something that really means a lot to me. I need to find time to do it. My wife is the most amazing woman in the world, as you'll find out through these podcasts. I can't have enough good things to say about her. She also knows where I sleep and knows where I live. So if I say anything negative about her, I'm going to be in it for a world of hurt. But speaking with your partner, and whether it be if you are a woman watching this, which you might, talking to your husband or your wife, just letting them know how important this is to you, and they're your husband or wife, so they'll support you, but you have to let them know how important it is to you. Like, I need to work out. I need to do this. I need to do this. Here are the reasons why. Here's how I want to do it. Talking to them and having them help you and motivate you and push you to do it is going to really help, because I know in my life, the times my wife works out the most is when I'm working out. And she feels almost an obligation, or not an obligation, but she sees me do it and goes, wow, I want to do that too. Like, he's feeling so good now. I want to feel good too. So working together with your spouse. The next thing is kids fall asleep. Do it then. That's what I have right now. Kids fall asleep. Do it then. My daughter, my oldest, goes to bed about 8:30 every single night. We're very regimented about that, which is good because I know that at 8:30, I have basically the rest of my night. To be fair, my wife basically takes care of our newborn. Like when I'm working or if I'm working out, she's the one that's taking care of the younger child. So that's obviously a conversation you'd have to have, but kids fall asleep, so do it then. So when my kids fall asleep, I'm just going to do it then. It's pretty basic. So you got to find time to do it. And for me, that's always been the best time, is at night. They're asleep. I can go to the gym. Nobody's going to miss me. My wife will normally be asleep too. So I'm sort of just up by myself, 10 o'clock at night. You just sort of go, you find the time, you go in, get out, and that's just it. The one thing that you have to be careful of is this is a procrastinator's dream, is waiting until 10 o'clock at night to work out. So you have to be very sticky about, you have to work out every single day. You have to make sure you force yourself to work out every single day. And then finally, the last thing that my wife and I do almost every single day is we go on a walk with them and we rope them into an activity. So whether that activity be being outside, I'll shoot hoops. My oldest daughter will color, and my youngest will be on my wife's chest. She'll sort of hold her here and she'll just sort of walk around, pull weeds or whatever it may be, or just play with us. And so you just get outside, go on a walk with them, put them in the stroller, go on a walk or go on a hike. A lot of these things, the great thing is that they're free. So you just you probably already have a stroller. So just put them in the stroller and go for a walk. And going on a hike, we have this backpack that we got that's really cool. So we'll just throw them in the backpack and hike with them. And that's really great because not only do they get to go outside with you and you get to go outside with them, but you also get to go outside and go for a hike, and you're not limited by how far they can walk. because you can carry them. So that's what we've done. We don't do as much hiking anymore now that we have 2, and we have the youngest that is so young, and she was a preemie, so she's so small that we haven't gone. I don't think we've gone hiking with her yet, but last year with my oldest, we went all the time. We were always hiking because it was just a great activity to get outside. It's not the most strenuous thing. It's a good workout, but you're not like lifting weights. It's not like push-ups or anything. And then finally, the last thing is like, just do it in the middle of stuff. So if you're playing with your kid and you're rolling around on the ground, do 10 push-ups. I do that all the time. Kids want to jump on your back anyway, so just do 10 push-ups with them on your back, whatever. That's what I do a lot. It's just like you just got to find the time to do it, and sometimes you just have to do it and actively choose to do it. So do a pull-up when you can. Do a push-up when you can, whatever it may be. Just make it easier on yourself to work out. Next, Vox gives us a ton of advice as to how to not ruin a relationship when you argue with somebody. And I thought I was reading this article today, and I thought it was pretty funny because it's just like the most basic advice understand what you're really arguing about. Make sure that you practice active listening, and finally focus on areas of agreement and negotiate where you don't agree. I don't really care. Like, I'm not trying to crap on Vox. I just thought this was a hilarious article. If you are in a relationship, they actually did mention one thing that I really liked. They said, you need to ask yourself if you're butting heads over a difference in worldview or in values. And that's said by Daniel Bayer Jackson, who's a friendship coach. That's crazy. I didn't know there were friendship coaches. Anyways, so I would say if you are having an argument and you're married to the person like I am, your values should have already aligned. If you got married to somebody whose values didn't align with you, that's really dumb. I would say that don't do that. I would suggest not doing that. And maybe you could convince them, but I would suggest values probably aren't going to change very much. So if your values don't align, don't get married to the person. But assuming your values do align, the only thing you need to do, the only way you need to get out of an argument or get out of a discussion with somebody, or whatever it may be, this is what I do. And I have this written down here because I wanted to make sure I word this properly. That all that advice is perfectly fine, but I've been with my wife for 8 years, and almost every argument can be solved with her admitting that I'm right. And that's really all it comes down to, is making sure that she admits that you are right. And once she admits that you're right, like, the argument's over because you're always going to be right. And that's just how every argument works forever. Trust me, my wife, if she comments anything different, like she's wrong, she's lying, again, she's wrong again, so she hasn't admitted that I'm right. No, but actually, the best way to get out of an argument with somebody, you don't need a friendship coach, you don't need any of this nonsense, you don't need to read these articles. The only thing you need to do is you need to step away and just separate yourselves. When you are in an argument, especially late at night, like you're frustrated at each other, something's bugging you, whatever it may be, just get away from each other. Actual physical distance is the best possible thing you could possibly do ever. If you are frustrated, just go to sleep. Just go to sleep, and then you sleep on it, and you wake up in the morning and you go, you know what? I guess it's not that big of a deal. Every single argument that I've ever had that was really bad happened late at night, and it's because neither one of us wanted to admit that we were wrong. And then we woke up the next day and go, I guess that wasn't that big of a deal now, was it? Because at the end of the day, your spouse loves you, and they're not trying to hurt you. My wife never has she has my best interest at heart, and I want what's best for my wife. And that's like, approaching an argument like that makes it so much easier, because you're like, well, they could just be wrong, or they could just think something that I think is wrong. And I know they're not trying to purposely hurt me. If what they said hurt me, then okay, that's a different conversation. Like, if they made a mistake, that's fine. Or what they did hurt you, they made a mistake, that's fine. You talk about that. You explain to them why they're wrong, or why you feel like they're wrong. But generally speaking, like, just walk away. Like, it's not that hard. It's funny because, like, there's so much advice, like, don't go to bed angry, don't do this. Dude, go to bed angry. That is the worst advice I've ever heard, ever. Just go to sleep. Just literally, you're here, just walk away and separate yourself, and that's it. So that's what I think. I mean, like, I don't know. I've been with my wife for 8 years. I'm not saying I'm a pro or anything, but I would say, like, separating yourself and just giving yourself some time. Every single time we have an argument, when it starts to get too big, which we don't really fight that much, but I mean, I think a relationship, you should fight a little bit, because it's like, it matters. Like, I want her to care. I want her to be willing to fight and disagree with me and have arguments. So, but every single time we have an argument, if we just step away and walk away, everything gets solved, and your life will just, I promise you, life is better. Just go to bed angry. That's the word. Go to bed angry. That's the best advice, because you just need to sleep on it, and you wake up in the morning and you go, what were we even fighting again? Oh yeah, that was so stupid. Yeah, so let's just not do that. And then she'll be like, yeah, you're right. That is stupid. Let's just not do that. And then you just agree, and then we just move on. Next, we have this really interesting article that also popped up today. 2 in 3 millennials have credit card debt, more than double the number who have student loans. Just 13% of millennial credit card holders are debt-free, slightly higher than the 11% of Gen Xers who say the same, but far less than the 29% of baby boomers without any debt. This, to me, is like credit card debt, in most cases, is completely inexcusable. I think that credit card companies, like, we know how bad they are for you. We know how manipulative and how evil credit card companies are. They will charge you 10, 15, 20%. They will charge you the most they possibly can on interest on a credit card that's legal in the United States. I think it's like 25, 26, 27%, 27.9%, I think is what a lot of them are at. APR, which is crazy. You couldn't make 30% on any investment in the history of the world, and I guess maybe Bitcoin or whatever, but that's still, like, that goes up and down all the time. So we know how bad credit cards are for you. Why is this happening to people? Why are they getting into credit card debt? I think a big part of it is a lot of people want to live a more lavish lifestyle than they can technically afford, because I have done this. It's like I made enough money to pay for my house and my car and some food, and that was it. But I lived my life like I owned a much nicer home, like I owned a much nicer car, like I could afford much more expensive food. So you buy stuff that you really just cannot afford. And I think a lot of it too is the willingness to sacrifice. I think, well, I work a job, I work hard, I'm allowed to spend my money. And like, there's a part of that that's true, but there's a part of it where, like, you got credit card debt, you got bills that are lining up, you have to pay this off. What I suggest people do, the first thing people should do, like, I like the Dave Ramsey model. That's how we paid off all of our debt. We paid off like $32,000 in credit card loans. We paid off a $46,000 car loan. So we paid off a bunch of money in loans. We've made a bunch. I told you I made mistakes. I mean, $46,000 car loan is ridiculous. But, geez, yeah, that was the dumbest thing. The dumbest purchase we've ever made. Anyways, but what happens, I think, is because then we like the car I drive is worth like $4,000 because we bought that car. So that's what you do. You make a big mistake, and then you fix that mistake by buying something that's crazy cheap, and that's what we did. So I think a lot of this is just, like, people want to live a bigger life than they should live, than they can afford. I know a lot of people don't make enough money, and like in their circumstances, it's like you just cannot open a credit card. You have to figure out a different way to do it. And I know that sounds so stupid, like, well, but it's like, how? And like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm not in your circumstances. I don't know your position. I don't know where you're at. I do know that getting a credit card and putting credit card debt on is the dumbest, worst thing you could possibly do. It will ruin your life so fast. Your head will spin. You'll have so many fees, and you'll owe so much extra money. You'll buy something for like $500, and over the course of a year or two, if you don't pay that off, you're going to owe so much money. You're going to be in so much financial hardship because of one tiny mistake. So don't use a credit card. You don't need it. I understand the points thing. A lot of people use the points thing as an excuse, but 2 in 3 millennials have credit card debt. So a lot of people who are saying the points thing, 2 in 3 millennials are in credit card debt. That's crazy. So I have tried the credit card payoff where you use it just for the points, and like, it could work, but I even found myself, and I consider myself very frugal. Like, I think I'm very good with money. I've invested a ton of money. Like, I sacrifice all the time. My wife sacrifices all the time. I mean, I have found myself spending more money because I could pay it off next month. And that's me. So I can't imagine people who don't think like me or aren't so crazy with money like myself. Because then, like, one of the next things is 16% of those who expect to die in debt have a household income surpassing $100,000. To those people, that's ridiculous. You make $100,000, just downgrade your life. I mean, just downgrade your life. Like, that's so easy. Like, to fix that problem, you make $100,000. I mean, I have 2 kids, and I know how much it costs. And $100,000 is like, that's absurd. Like, you have more money than you could know what to do with if you were just smart with how you handled it. Instead, you buy a way too big a house, way too nice a car, and you don't invest anything. And now you're in credit card debt. Like, that's crazy. You make $100,000. Like, just don't be stupid with your money. That's really good advice. Don't be stupid with your money. Ultimately, I think a lot of what it comes down to is moving past things. Stop being a materialist. Stop looking for joy in items. They're not going to give you the joy you think that they will, and you're just going to have them, and then you're going to want the next thing, because it's always going to be the next thing. If you're trying to get your joy and happiness from stuff, you're always going to be looking for the next thing, the next item that you need to get your dopamine hit from. You buy a new laptop, you need another new laptop because this one's more powerful, this one's got a nicer screen, this one's got a better battery life. So you're always going to be reaching for that next thing, and like that next thing is always going to be there to buy. Instead, just learn to be happy with the stuff that you have. Learn to make your stuff better. Like I built this wall behind me. This microphone I got used. Buy stuff used. Like this is an extremely expensive microphone. This whole setup is technically $600. My wife and I found it on Facebook Marketplace for like $200. So that's what you do. This laptop right here, brand new, was $2,500. I found it on Facebook Marketplace for $1,100 or $1,200 or something like that. So you have to find cheaper ways to do things. Buy used, buy less, and just invest. Like it's not that hard. I know you want to live for the moment, but like you're going to live for the moment too hard, and you're going to realize in a few moments from now, in a few months, a few weeks, a year or whatever, you're going to realize that every purchase you made, every mistake you made, you're going to curl up in horror. So please just move past things. Things are going to get you happiness. Your kids running into your arms. That's what, like, my daughter will scream, "Dad, Dad," and say, "I love you, Dad, Dad," and run into my arms and give me a hug. It's like, dude, you could have all my money. You could have everything I own as long as I still get to do that. So if you want a more in-depth version of this, like how exactly you can do it by the books, I have a video on my main channel that you should watch. But basically, it's just going through the steps on how to pay off debt and like increasing your income, lowering your expenses, those types of things. If money is so easy, it's really not that hard. It's intimidating, but it's really not that hard to figure it out. I am like good with math. I've always been pretty good with money, but my wife was terrible with money when she met me, and now my wife is like an expert with money. She's actually the one who handles most of our budget because she's so good with it. So you can learn. It's not that hard. You just have to be willing to learn. So if you want more information, this is a shameless plug, but I mean, you listen to the intro and you're still listening to here and you're not expecting me to not do a shameless plug. Anyways, so those are the few articles I found that I want to react to. This section right here, I think would be really fun to react and respond to comments. This is the first episode, so there are no comments to react/respond to. So I am going to ask a few questions I think you might be having. The first one is, how old are you? 29. The next one is, why are you bald? Bad genetics. The next one is, this is the greatest podcast I've ever listened to. Are there more? Yes. I posted 3 podcasts when I first started. So there are 2 more that you can listen to right now. And if you're listening to this later in the podcast's life, there are more podcasts to listen to. They come out every single week. And wait, that's the next question. How often do they come out? Well, the podcast comes out weekly. I think I'm going to do Monday or Tuesday mornings. Let me know what you think. I like Monday mornings because I think it's something to look forward to, because Monday mornings when you have a job can kind of suck. And so I know I look forward to like watching and listening to stuff on Monday mornings because like that's Monday morning. Anyways, the next one is, who do you think you are giving me advice? I don't have a great answer for that, but here's I will give you a little thing. I think I'm good with fitness. I think I'm good with money. I think I'm a good dad. I think I'm good at being a minimalist. And I also think I'm good at making stuff. So I want to sort of meld all those things together. Those are all my hobbies and things I do. Like that's what I do. I'm a father. I talk about money with my wife. I'm really involved with like our finances, and I'm really into that kind of stuff. That's like a lot of the books I listen to are all finance, personal finance, fitness, like self-development, like that stuff. I think I'm really good at it. This is funny to say because that means I think I'm really good at life, which I don't think I'm really good at life, but I do think I have figured out several things that I wish I knew years ago. That's exactly why I'm trying to make this. So those are all the things. And now we get to my favorite section, which is the unsolicited advice section. The unsolicited advice section is where I give unsolicited advice. And this week's unsolicited advice is lose weight and be in good shape for your kid. So, what do I mean by this? Well, I have struggled with weight my entire life. When I was a kid, I was thin. I was like a really thin kid. I played a lot of sports. I was always really super duper active. And I got to high school, and freshman year, whatever, I was like 140, 150 pounds. Same thing sophomore year. Then junior year and senior year, I put on like 50, 60 pounds, and I weighed 200 pounds, maybe 220 by the end of senior year of high school. And being fat in high school was like the least cool thing ever. I never got a girlfriend. No girls ever liked me. You had no confidence. It was pretty much the worst thing ever. So I know what it's like to be chubby, and I know what it's like to be fat, and I know that it sucks, and I know that life is a lot harder. Clothes fit worse. You have to buy bigger clothes. You're constantly like pulling your shirt. It's not fun to be fat. Fast forward 10 years later, my first kid comes out, and I was like in decent shape. I don't know. I was like 185 pounds, whatever it may be, like thin enough, I think, thin enough. And your kids, they do not stop moving. You want to get in good shape. I think a big in life, it's easy to say, well, you should be in good shape. You should do this. You should do that. And then it's like easy to get really excited about a new workout program, new this, new that. But at the end of the day, like you need a why. You need a why as to why you're going to wake up every single morning and you're going to choose to eat that salad as opposed to McDonald's, why you're going to choose to drink the sparkling water as opposed to Diet Coke. And for me, it's my kids and my wife. You need a why. You have to have a why in your life. You have to have a why you're going to lose weight, why you're going to sacrifice, why you're going to get out of credit card debt, why you're going to do all this stuff. You need to have a why, because without a why, you're not going to be successful. Like you're just never going to find any success in anything. I've talked to my wife about this a lot, and I was a really good golfer when I was in high school, and then I was an exceptional golfer in college. I was D3, which is Division 3, so I was like one of the smaller schools, but I was the best college golfer. I've never talked about this, but I was the best college golfer to ever play at that school. I had every single record except for one. I was just the best one. I won the most tournaments. I had the lowest score ever. I had the lowest season scoring average. I just didn't have I had the second lowest career scoring average. But I know what it's like to be really excellent at something, what it takes to get to a point where you're really, really excellent at something. And in my case, like the best at something. Well, other than that one, so maybe I wasn't the best. And what it takes is years and years and years and years and years and years of sacrifice and being able to see that there's a plan that you're following and you have to have a goal at the end. So if you want to lose weight, you want to get in shape, it's like you're not doing it for 30 days or for 60 days. You see all these challenges. I'm currently in the middle of a 60-day getting shredded challenge. I've lost a bunch of weight. I'm working out all the time because I just want to like see if I can get a six-pack basically. And it's at the end of the day, like that challenge is cool. At the end of it, I should do all the things I look to achieve. But I have the whole rest of my life to try to stay in good shape. And it's like you have to have a why and you have to have a purpose for doing the things that you're going to do, because like at the end, nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to save your life for you. Nobody's going to get you in better shape, and nobody's going to eat the healthier food. Nobody's going to run the extra mile. Nobody's going to lift the extra weight. Nobody's going to push you and force you to go to the gym. You have to be the reason that your life gets better. Nobody's going to do it for you. And so for me, a lot of my motivation is just my kids. It's like, I want to be able to run around with my daughter. She never stops. She gets up and she runs from 8:30 all the way until 1 o'clock when she takes a nap. And then she wakes up at 4 o'clock or whatever. And then she runs and runs and runs and runs and runs until she goes to bed at 8:30. And I want to be able to keep up with my kid. I have to be able to keep up with my kid because she deserves her dad to keep up with her. She deserves a dad who's willing to play with her, who can actually keep up with her. She doesn't deserve a dad who's always laying on the couch, playing on his phone, who, is watching TV, whatever it may be. That's why our kids don't have iPads. It's like a simple thing, but our kids don't have iPads. Duh. Never will ever give our kid an iPad. That's why we have one TV in our entire house, and we have like this theater room that I built the family. I like redid the entire basement. It was all concrete basically, and I put up the walls and the studs, the electrical, everything. And we only go down there very specific times. We will watch. In the winter, we'll use it a little bit more, maybe like once a week. And in the summer, we pretty much never go down there. The only time I will go in there is if I'm playing video games with my friends. And that's a level of commitment you have to have. I think that there's a lot of parenting is done, do as I say, not as I do. And you cannot do that because kids know when you're a fraud. Kids are smart. They will see you saying, no, you can't, you really shouldn't be drinking Diet Coke, guys. And then they'll see you get a Diet Coke. Or you really shouldn't drink. Like, don't drink alcohol in your life. And then they'll see you drink. They will see you do the things that you tell them not to do. And they will go, well, if he's doing them, I'm just going to do them. Like, who is he to tell me not to do these things? Like, he's doing them. Kids will figure out that you're a fraud faster than you could possibly imagine. And I think that in life, you have to be the type of person, the type of parent that has to be willing to sacrifice for their kids because it will make you the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. I am the best version of myself that I've ever been. And I will continue to get better and better and better because I have kids, because I have a super supportive wife, because I have the most amazing wife in the whole world. And I'm not just saying that because she's probably the only one listening to this podcast right now, because nobody else is going to be listening to it, but it's because it's true. And my wife, I need my wife. My wife has pushed me to become the man that I am today. And she's molded me in a way, she's helped me mold myself, I guess, in a way that I never thought could be possible. I never thought I could be the type of man that I am. I never thought I was good enough to be the type of man that I am. And so you need a woman in your life like my wife, because she's the best. And like the kids, you have to be able to do it for your kids or your future kids, whatever it may be, because they are worth it. Like, I promise you, they're worth it. They deserve the very best version of yourself, just like you deserve the very best version of yourself. But like, they especially do, because they need the best version of you. They need the best version of you to show up day in and day out, because they don't really care if you're having a bad day. They don't care if you got yelled at work by somebody. You know, they don't care. Like, they don't care about that. Like, that doesn't affect them. They care about you playing with them right now and having fun with them and hanging out with them and raising them and being a good parent. And that's what it comes down to. And that's hard. It's hard to sacrifice because, you know, there's going to be times where you just want to lay down and play on your phone. But like, you have to be better than that, which is why I think you have to lose the weight. Like, you have to get in good shape. Like, that's part one to being a good parent, in my opinion. Not that, I guess I don't want people to think that, oh, well, if you're overweight, you can't be a good parent. It's not that at all. It's just, I think it makes it easier to be a good parent if you lost some weight or if you're in better shape. Because I know for me, when I will put on occasional 10, 15 pounds, like get up to like 200 pounds again, and I feel myself being a worse dad. I know I'm being a worse dad. Being thin does not mean you will be a good parent. But I think getting in better shape is a great step forward to becoming a better parent. Obviously, people are going to get mad because I said it's good to be thin, and it helps to be thin to be a good parent. And like, whatever, it's fine. I want you to live a better life, and I'm not going to sit here and just lie to you and say, well, you can do whatever you want and you'll be a good parent. Give them an iPad, and you know what? You sit in front of a TV from 5 to 9:30 and just watch TV and show them that great example. No, that's bad. Those are bad things to do, and you know they're bad. You're just mad at me because you know what you're doing is wrong. Same thing with weight. Like, I used to hate when people, like, somebody called me fat one time, and it pissed me off so much. And then I was like, well, I was fat. I am fat. Like, I am. Like, I am heavy right now, and I can be better than that. So that's it. That's the end of the show. Hopefully I didn't get canceled in that last segment, but if I did, that's fine, because it's the truth, and I'm not afraid to tell the truth because I'm a big tough guy. No, but really, it's just like the truth matters, and like the truth is important. And if my kids ever watch this, I want them to know that the truth matters, and it's important to be truthful, even if sometimes somebody might try to cancel you. Well, then no one's gonna cancel me because I'm uncancelable. So thank you guys for watching. This is awesome. I'm really excited about this podcast, and I will see you in the next one. This has been Scott with the Dear Young Men podcast. See ya.